All right, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is for you too. This is Pastor Dow. I want to talk to you here this morning about something that the whole world, all of us, seem to have trouble with embracing and coming to an expected end. It's this statement right here. Three very painful words, and they are, "I was wrong." I admit, we all need to admit that none of us like being in error. Neither do we want to at times admit that we have been in error. A lot of times we don't want to admit that we have been in error because of repercussions from people who do not understand. The one thing I've learned as a pastor over the years, I have had the uncanny ability to be able to correct wrongs if I did not have complete understanding and light for a situation going forward. But one thing that it has always done is it has always motivated me to actually get in the book and be slow to speak and make sure that I really, truly cross the T's and dot the I's because being wrong is very painful. And then your critics, woo, boy, now mind you, they are wrong probably about 85% of the things in their life. But they look for that one morsel of thing to so-called catch you in your words at. Now, most people approach debate a little bit different than I do. Most people are very prideful and they're not interested in the truth. Most people only concerned with presenting their point of view and then convincing everybody that their point of view and perspective is right. I approach debate or intensive dialogue a little bit different. I personally believe that debate, while you may have an opponent sitting across from you or maybe adjacent to you, I do not view them as the enemy. And I know that it may get very vigorous and very heated at times. As long as we can keep the debate to where we're not name calling and be intelligent about it and not making disparaging comments or about each other or trying to character assassinate each other and stick with the topic at hand, then that type of debate, it should be vigorous. It should be heated because after all, as a Hebrew, that's just my nature. It's my culture. And I know most people who have been brought up in this American system, they do not understand passion when speaking or dialogue. I do have ears to hear, and I'm very careful and very slow. But debate, for me, the way I've understood it over the years is it's not so much as about the person or the people who are arguing their position or perspective or point of view with each other, but it's about those who are in the audience listening. You actually have to present your information in such a way to actually gain those if you really truly believe that you know the truth. That's the reason why due diligence is paramount as we continue to go forward in the hour that we're living in. If you're an Israelite, you're always responsible for what you believe. And if you have an extraordinary amount of people or people that are following you, I do, because they are the seal of my pastorship. But you're responsible for what you know and why you believe what you believe. But if you're a pastor and a teacher, meaning that you're a pastor and then you also teach the people, you're not only responsible for what you know and believe, but you're also responsible for why you teach what you believe. And that right there is very important. I don't mind telling you that there has been quite a few times on doctrinal issues. You understand what I mean? And I've learned a long, long time ago to be very careful about how I answer certain questions and stuff, knowing I'm not worried about me being wrong because I'm fallible and flawed. I realize that. But I've found out over the years, and I've been practicing this, is to be very careful about answering. And then it depends on the venue. For instance, I could answer a question depending on the venue and say I agree, but that doesn't mean I agree with everything they said. All that is okay. Most people are just simply not ready for a lot of heated subjects. Now, not that I'm avoiding it, because when you go to a debate, it's very important that you stay on course with what's presented. What the subject matter is, and not to easy go off course, because it's easy to have many digressions whenever you're in a debate, because once someone is cornered, the next thing they do is they go to a strong point and try to say, this is the reason why you need to listen to me. But the ideal is to really, truly stay the course. And there's a lot of things I've changed my mind about. And there's a lot of things that I literally believe, personally, that it was literally not time for me to address. But when it's time for me to address it, I make sure that I spend a year or two making sure that I've done my due diligence before I answer it. Let me give you a couple examples. Number one, there's a movement out here, be it the white British Israelite teaching and doctrine. You're not going to convince these people that they're not the people of the book. They believe it. You're not going to convince, so you're actually wasting your time. The people who are black Hebrew Israelites, if we can use that terminology, who do not believe that the nations can be saved or that the nations can become Israelites. You're not going to convince these people. You have to know when you're up against a brick wall and when it's just literally not healthy to enter into certain things. So you have to really pick and choose your battles wisely, because some people are just so indoctrinated that they're simply just not going to change. And then, of course, with the rise of homosexuality, and now 37 states in the United States of America have adopted, look at this, legalized homosexual laws, gay laws. This used to be a time in this country that was an abomination. And if this country is built on biblical principles, it's still an abomination. But you have to understand there's a difference between secular government and then Yahweh's government or biblical government. The world is not trying to obey the scriptures at all. And politicians, they spend their time trying to be politically correct. And a pastor, you can't be politically correct. You have no time for that. You're here to represent the truth regardless of how it impacts people's feelings and emotions, because people's feelings and emotions is not the truth. And so that's one reason why I couldn't be a politician, because I just cannot sit up there and lie to the American public and play what you call politics, or basically a professional liar, to deceive the people, because it's just simply not in me. My conscience will not allow me any rest, and neither would I have sleep. I think that's one thing that would actually take rest from me is actually just lying and knowing that I've lied. And I'm just not about that. I have the spirit of truth in me, and I just simply cannot do that. So, we're in an age where the gays are making a move, and they're getting secular sanctions. And there's only a few more states left to go, because well over 3/4 of the country, the states have adopted gay marriage. Well, I said it in the past, all you people who believe in a biblical marriage, and that means a man having more than one wife or plurality of wives, you don't have anything to worry about. The one thing about people I learned about in this society is that why are the gays looking for recognition from the state for something they're already practicing and doing anyway? It hasn't stopped them whatsoever at all. And even though at the time it was against the law, can you show me one person that was ever prosecuted for being a homosexual or a lesbian or gay? I mean, they're so out in the open with it. You go to restaurants, malls, coffee shops, grocery stores. You can't miss it. You can't miss it. And they're proud. They're very proud. In my day, they would not be. Well, there are people now that are really truly looking at this biblical lifestyle. Not because some people want to practice it. Most people look at it for scholarship and for the basis of the truth. And that's what they want to come to. And then, the one thing I've learned about the biblical lifestyle or plural marriage is that, if you're going to obey Yah, you don't look for approval from the government. You don't look for approval from a religion. You do not even look for approval among your fellow man. You just practice what you believe. Even an unbeliever practices what they believe. But the one thing I realized about this biblical marriage is that women today is just a sad situation that they're in because they find themselves saddle up with some deadbeat, lazy man, and of course, there's a whole lot more women than men today, and most of them will probably die lonely simply because there's really not that many good men that are left out there today. And of course, when we live in allegedly a monogamous society, because our society is really a serial polygynous society. Divorce, remarried, divorce, remarried, divorce, remarried consecutively and stuff. And then making all these, the fornication is and the humbling of women is just unreal. And the women, their mind, will, and emotions are played with. They're lied to over and over again. And men brag about how many women they've been with and the reason why? Because there's no obligation. I mean, after all, if you can go out there and play the field and have this free sex without obligation, whoremongering and fornication, adultery, it's a free fall in this country. Everybody knows it. It's a free fall. The majority of Christian churches are loaded with lifestyles that the Bible rejects, and yet the preacher is silent and do not say nothing. And the one reason why they don't say anything is because, political correctness. They're very interested in a paycheck, and they cannot start preaching things that people consider to be offensive, because if they do that, they're going to start losing members, if not only their job nowadays, because they have the churches set up like a business. But if you're going to embrace the truth, again, for instance, me, I have never, once I understood salvation and once I started obeying the Bible, I've never asked the government for permission to obey Yahweh. And I'm not about to ask and not about to start either. And neither am I asking for the approval of ignorant men who have not done their due diligence to study a lot of things. So the homosexual agenda is on fire. And it's not going to be stopped. So they're going to set the course for everybody else. So now you got a lot of people in trouble, because I personally now, especially after doing my due diligence and spending the last few years really truly in studying this subject out. And for those who follow my Shabbat services, I'm ready to take on anybody in the world. I don't care what kind of scholarship you have or who you may be. But I don't want to waste my time either. I want to make sure that if you are a leader, that you have a group. I don't want to go around with these little small fry people who have their little personal opinions and stuff. I want to establish people. I want people of scholarship. I want people who can show that they have the seal of their leadership with people following them. Because my time is precious and I'm a very busy man. I don't want to spend my time in nonsensical arguments. In ignorant venues. I want to be able to have intelligent dialogue and to go forward and to prove that I understand what the Bible says in this area. But now I understand that people are still going to hold their position. But it's amazing how that people can say they love Abraham but then reject his lifestyle. Say they love David but reject his lifestyle. And all of a sudden, Yahweh changed his mind when we get to the New Testament. No, I think what's happening is that a lot of men are afraid to actually tell their wives what the biblical truth is and are, because there's going to be a spiritual battle. No doubt about it, there's going to be. Just like it is when you start keeping the commandments. And most of us who understand there's a battle for the house once you start doing that. And anybody knows once you start walking in this truth, the first thing that comes out of ignorant people's minds is cult. When they are part of the greatest cult and delusion and deception and heresy that there is. But most people just sincerely will not check out the things they think they believe because they're scared of being wrong. Saying I was wrong, I've learned what it does is it gains respect, especially when people realize that, hey, man, this guy can admit that he was wrong and then adjust and then go forward. I'm sure as long as y'all allow me breath in my body and I go forward in life, I'm sure it's probably going to be some other things I'm probably going to be wrong about. Not that I want to be wrong, but I'm sure it's going to happen. but it's not my intent to be wrong or to mislead people. That's the reason why it's very important for us to be pliable and not adopt a position or a posture to where saving face has become a hot commodity or a high commodity in our lifestyle, and we continue to keep misleading people. So you need to understand there are a lot of things that you're simply not going to convince people about because they won't study and get clear on a lot of things. So, save yourself the heartache and the pain. But those of you who believe in biblical and plural marriage, you're not about to wait for the government for no sanctions or nothing like it. You're not looking for the government approval. It's a nonsensical fight to do something that you're already practicing anyway. I guess the homosexuals feel good because their God is government. And that legitimacy sanctioned by the government helps them to be free, I guess. I don't know. They're already free. They're doing it anyway, and nobody's been prosecuted for it. Even in this country, nobody gets prosecuted for committing adultery. Nobody's been prosecuted, and I guarantee they're dead laws. Nobody's been prosecuted for practicing polygyny. No matter what, it makes no difference whether you like it or not. It don't change anything. People, the system deals with facts. But hey, I call for it all the time. I love to have some civil dialogue and debate over this, but chances are I'm not going to get it because most people would rather leave it alone, because it's too sensitive in nature. And most people, their ministries will literally be destroyed even if they entertain or even try to start talking about this subject. One thing about Pastor Dow, I'm a man, and I'm not running from anything. I'm not running from no fight. I'm not running from no firefight. I'm not running from no fight. And I'm definitely not running for no civil debate or debate where there's nothing but words involved. That's the truth. I have the spirit of truth, and I want to always come to the truth. In the end of things, myself as a pastor, I won't be standing before my congregation to give an account. No, I won't. I'll be standing before the eternal Most High to give an account of every word that I ever preached and taught in my life and the life that I led and I live. Simply repeating what other people have said and not studying, being like Bereans. Because people can present a subject to you and then lead you a certain way, and you go that way, you'll believe what they want you to believe. But if you start doing your own independent research, you're going to find out a lot of things. You really truly are. That's why I ask people to check me out. Because when you do check me out, you're going to find out that even though you might not like what I say, you're going to find out that I've been brutally honest. I hope I said something to help you in this hour we're living in. There's nothing wrong with admitting you're wrong. Nothing wrong with it at all. But some people are too prideful to admit it, that's for sure. But women, I'm doing my best, women, sisters, to make sure that some way, somehow, you're honored in this society rather than have to continue to keep putting up with the abuse that many of you put up with. It's just a sad situation at a sad time. But regardless, whether people like it or not, biblical marriage, because it's like everything else, is becoming a heated subject now that the homosexuals have sanction and approval from the federal government. You're going to watch all these people with different alternative lifestyles, including all these lifestyles that are not biblically based: homosexuality, lesbian, polyandry. You can go on and on and on. I don't agree with the word polygamy simply because that Greek word does not define the biblical perspective of what it means to have a biblical marriage or a plural marriage. The word polygyny does. But again, I understand that it's become a word that everybody uses, but it still does not make it right or correct. So if you're already living your life as a free man and free woman, consenting adults, why in the world are you worrying about what anybody else says? They're not your judges. Let them go. That's all there is to it. Y'all have a wonderful day. I got to get going here. I got plenty of work to do.